Hi guys, I'm going to do a quick video review on The Boy Who Grew Dragons by Andy Shepherd. This is a book that my wife bought last week. It's a book that I'd seen the cover of looking around on Twitter, but I hadn't really looked into it too much, didn't know too much about it. But yeah, it arrived last week, and essentially after finishing Moonlocket this morning, I thought, let's try and read something a bit shorter, a bit quicker, and see what this is all about. So I gave it a read. It's a book that I read in the space of a couple of hours, really, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, it's a very different book to several of the books I've read recently. It's a much lighter read in terms of content, and it is a book that, whilst older children could certainly enjoy and take plenty from in terms of reading pleasure, it's a book that I think would traditionally be targeted towards Year 3, Year 4 children. It's a very enjoyable book that centres around the life of a boy called Thomas, who essentially, when doing a little bit of gardening with his grandfather, discovers that dragons hatch from dragon fruit. And the story centres around him and his dragon and the experiences they have. Now, he is obviously extremely excited to have this dragon. The dragon is very, very destructive. The dragon's called Flicker, if I remember correctly. The dragon's very destructive, and it's obviously quite funny, but also quite difficult to keep this a secret. Now, most of the book centres around, or focuses around, the sort of fun he's having in keeping this dragon secret, but he's got this burning urge to share the experience with his friends. And as the book evolves and as things develop, his friends are hugely excited by the idea of catching their own dragons, and the story sort of develops to a situation where they all go camping and try and catch their own dragons. Now, whilst it's a funny story, whilst it's a story with some sort of make-believe fantasy, sort of slightly ambitious content, I guess, in terms of whether or not you're going to really believe it, it does have some really lovely messages. There's a wonderful relationship between Thomas and his sister, which is really strong throughout the book. There's the they get on really well, and he does talk about how lovely it is that they sort of always look out for one another. She's a much younger sister, but they've always sort of got each other's back and are working together. There's the power of friendship. You know, Thomas wants to share this experience with his friends, and whilst he wants the dragon for himself, and he wants a really cool pet himself, he wants his friends to be a part of it. And it got me thinking that, you know, children at school, there was some perhaps really nice messages there about how to be a good friend, how to share things. And I think for younger children that's really important, as it is for children as they grow up as well. I think it was a nice, short, snappy book. The chapters are often 3 or 4 or 5, 6 pages long, which was nice. It was pacey. It felt like I was getting through it really quickly. There was some absolutely wonderful illustrations in the book. Let me see if I can flick to a couple of pages quickly while you're watching. So there's nice illustration there. There were often pages where there was almost double pages of illustration. So as I say, it's a book you can get through. There's one more page I wanted to show. There's some really beautiful illustration, and it was by Sarah Ogilvie who illustrated this book, so she must get a mention here, which is thoroughly well deserved. So it was really nice to read. It broke up the illustrations, the pictures, and the text really, really nicely. And as I say, it was pacey, enjoyable, and funny. In terms of like content I read, it was obviously a bit lighter, a bit more light-hearted, a bit more silly. There were references to a few sort of toilet jokes and stuff, which I guess I wouldn't want to read every single book, but they fitted really well with the story. It was funny and pacey. I think what was also lovely is we talk about books often lacking characters from a range of diversities, but there was clear sort of there was clear illustration of characters from a range of ethnicities, which was really nice to see and really important for children to see in a book that they're going to access at a primary school age. Not got too much more to say. I thought it was really enjoyable. I would recommend it to children in my class, and I'm going to let them know I've read it, and it wouldn't surprise me if a few of them start ordering this or turn up with it in the new year. So that is The Boy Who Grew Dragons by Andy Shepherd.